You can feel it, can't you? The cold chill in the air, the pumpkin season in there upon us, the smell of jack-o'-lanterns burning in the distance. It's the night of terrors, witches, ghouls, goblins, all the rest. You can hear them all, can't you? You can hear them in the distance howling. You can hear them becoming more frightful, more nightmarish. For it is the time of the Halloween season, and yet I am here to tell you that for 11 days we're going to be dealing with the horror host. All of the horror host. We're going to be dealing with vampires. We're going to be dealing with possessed objects. We're going to be dealing with zombies, the undead. We're going to be dealing with a whole bunch of things that we can all get. So, we're going to be kicking off the Lazyween 2023 season the right way. We're going to be going over to a neighbor's house, trying to figure out their deepest secret. Because if you stop and think about it, your neighbor is probably the most terrifying thing. Yes, your neighbor can always say, I'm a teacher, I'm a mailman, I'm a construction worker, I'm a doctor, lawyer, etc. But the most terrifying thing that your neighbor could be, truly would be a monster. And that is the question of today's review. So, welcome everybody, my name is Lazy Universe, and welcome to my first Lazyween review of a cult classic movie known only as...
Oh no, it isn't. It's beautiful.
Greetings, Golden Goblins, I'm Lazy Universe, and I'm White and Nerdy. Yes, we are taking a look at the 1985 cult classic film Fright Night, and I'm going to be having a discussion from a line that Roddy McDowall's character says in this movie later. So this is actually my first time watching it, so I wanted to give you guys basically sort of like a different style of review, and hopefully that this review doesn't go on for too long, because sometimes I tend to ramble when I don't mean to. Oops. So anyways, Fright Night was a creative child decision from Tom Holland, who a lot of people might remember as the director of the Langoliers, and also the original Child's Play. No, I'm not talking about the Spider-Man Tom Holland, I'm talking about the director and writer Tom Holland, usually of horror film variety. And he was a creative genius for creating Fright Night, a film that came out in 1985 during the high rise of basically the slasher genre. Films like Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, and especially like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and My Bloody Valentine were like hit successful slasher films. Yet, here comes a little independent vampire film that comes on the rise. So, did this film make its own mark and stamp in history, when it wasn't really going to think that it was going to? Well, if what I've said, that it became a cult following, makes any sense, then yes. So let's dive into some Fright Night, as I will tell you my basically thoughts and opinions on the actual movie itself, and I gotta say and hand it to you that this is one of my favorite vampire films, but not my favorite vampire film of all time. But it does play into the mystery and suspense a little bit, especially about, like, what if your next door neighbor was more than you thought? So, we do get to meet a main character. Basically, his name is Charlie Brewster, and Brewster is basically the average, typical, everyday teenager in America. But of course, Charlie is more interested in what his neighbor is doing across the yard, trying to figure out what exactly his neighbor is up to, since he's been acting so creepy ever since he moved in. Unfortunately for poor Charlie, he becomes more distant from his girlfriend Amy. He starts ignoring her. He doesn't basically live in the real world anymore. He's more in the world obsessed with his neighbor. He never denies that something weird isn't going on, but it does take Charlie a while before he recognizes that something is indeed going wrong in the town, and he doesn't know why. For a majority of the film, Charlie, Amy, and Ed are all our main protagonists. Charlie Brewster is actually a pretty decent character, and he's one that even I myself, no matter how many times I watch this movie, can actually relate to, because I've been in a situation like this myself, where it's like, you're in a strange surrounding, you have a strange new neighbor, and you don't exactly quite know what this neighbor is or, you don't actually know how they are. Even if they're nice to your face, they can always be like Jason or Michael or Freddy even, and kind of stab you in the ass later on in life. So it is nice to know that he is basically kind of the typical everyday, teenager. He's a horror fan. He loves his movies and everything, etc. and etc. And Amy is basically the center of this all. She becomes kind of the heart of the entire movie, and I guess that it's because she's played by the amazing Amy Burr and Miss Burr, and she becomes more or less the, like I said, heart of the team, but she also becomes a little bit more than a damsel in distress, so to speak. I mean, she does later on, but at first she becomes a major player, but long before she becomes a damsel in distress. Yeah, something that like the Mario game should take part of. And then there's Ed, or also known as Evil Ed. And it took me a while to warm up to Evil Ed because, well, nothing against the actor that plays Ed. I think his name is Stephen Shortridge. Nothing against him or anything. It took me a while to get used to, well,
Oh, you're so cool, Brewster. I can't stand it.
yeah, that. Nothing against Stephen Shortridge or anything. Oh, I believe it's the actor that plays Ed. If I'm wrong, someone can feel free to correct me, but Lord, the voice was the thing to get used to for me. It took me like 4 to 5 rewatches of this just so I could not want to strangle Evil Ed. But there is a good reason why he's named Evil, but he doesn't like his nickname. The thing is why he has his name Evil is because he has a very twisted and maniacal sense of humor. He has like a very dark sense of humor. And a lot of people, especially at his school, pick on him for this, and he doesn't like the nickname Evil. It's kind of like, he does have this dark, morbid, twisted sense of humor, but he's a lot more than people make him out to me. He's a lot more sincere and whatnot. And you do get that later on in the film. He just liked to be a smartass and a dick to all his friends. He's that fucking typical asshole that the one that just can't go like 5 minutes without making some type of joke. And then of course you have Chris Sarandon as Jerry Dandridge in this film, and I gotta say Chris Sarandon does do this job well. He never really goes over the top, I feel, in a lot of moments. He plays the middleman very, very well, and he does great as a typical average kind of creepy neighbor. But before we get to that, Charlie tried to get everybody on board, such as Evil Ed and his girlfriend Amy, trying to tell them, like, hey, there's really a vampire after me, but they don't believe him. But I love it when the film introduces Jerry because Chris Sarandon plays him off so damn decently, like he's a nice, decent guy that you could actually get along with, but he can kill you. But he's not that average, vampire that actually does kill people over and over and over again. The thing that made Jerry different from the other vampires is that he offers Charlie a choice.
Deserve to die, boy. Of course, forget about me, Charlie. Forget about me, and I'll forget about you. What do you say, Charlie?
After the attack, Charlie goes after the one man he believes that will listen to him and actually help him out, Peter Vincent, played by the legendary Roddy McDowall. McDowall is a legendary actor, and he plays the role of Peter Vincent very, very well in my opinion, but there is something that he says that I can't help but kind of take notice of.
Nobody wants to see vampire killers anymore, or vampires either. Apparently all they want are demented madmen running around in ski masks, hacking up young virgins.
I have to actually agree with Roddy McDowell both back then and even still nowadays. Because back then, mostly the slasher genre was taking over movies. Like I said, Halloween, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, My Bloody Valentine, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street. They were all taking over the market of movies, and mostly that's what people wanted to see. Long gone were the days of the classic Universal monsters, so to speak. And while, yes, they are technically still around, eventually, and I just have this fear that eventually moviegoers that are younger than me will eventually not get the classic movie monsters. Oh, sure, you could buy the, like Legacy DVD pack, I think that's what it is, from Universal that has all the monster movies in it, but it's not the same thing. We should go back to the roots of the classic monster era. The only one that had done it well, in my opinion, so far was Renfield, and that portrayed Dracula pretty damn well. A lot of people found it cartoonish, and a lot of people found it weird, but it, it's Nicolas Cage as Dracula. What were you really expecting from this? You know. But I do have to still agree with him nowadays, where it's like, yeah, we still live in a day and age where technically long gone are the days of like vampires, kind of the only, I guess, terrifying vampires that you can get now, except for that technically Dracula prequel movie is the What We Do in Shadows, which I don't know if you want to consider that terrifying. I mean, I don't know if they're gonna bring him back, but in season one they had Mark Hamill. So terrifying. But I don't think that we're ever gonna get back those legacy days of, or the legendary days of like the classic movie monsters. Even for vampires, like days like The Lost Boys or Fright Night and even Blade are technically gone. Especially the last time that we seen a proper werewolf done justice was Werewolf by Night. So it's kind of like these days, no one cares about the classic movie monsters like they used to anymore. I guess that long gone are the days of, the essential movie monsters, and now people are just making whatever horror film that they feel like. I still can't believe that Five Nights at Freddy's is making a movie, but there you go. Technically, there was one before this one, which was called Willy's Wonderland, but again, there you go. So, eventually, that Roddy McDowell, who is a great performer in this, he eventually does believe Charlie and that his neighbor is a vampire, but Charlie keeps trying to convince people at first that, like, we should kill this motherfucker. And everybody's like, no, Charlie, no, we don't need to kill this nice man. We don't need Mr. Dandridge to die. Until eventually Mr. Dandridge does some things that weren't so great. I mean, he goes after Ed, and he goes after Amy. I love the scene where he goes after Ed, where he promises Ed that he can change him, he can make Ed better, and nobody would ever pick on him anymore, and he can do whatever the hell he wants. Then he hypnotizes and goes after Amy, and of course, he goes after Amy for a stupid reason that I'm not going to explain here, but trust me when I say it's kinda dumb. So Charlie teaming up with the legendary Peter Vincent to try and save his friends from the evil neighbor of Jerry Dandridge, which becomes the final standoff for this movie. Which of course has Roddy McDowell going after Charlie's mother, but it's not Charlie's mother at all, and instead is evil Ed, who Roddy McDowell had to accidentally kill. By the way, I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one who loves this werewolf deconstruction moment because it is so legendary and so awesome just to have happen on the screen. I also love how terrified or horrified that Roddy McDowell looked as Ed is dying because he just killed one of his good friends and a good person that he had just met. I love the moment when Charlie is meeting up with Amy and she's all different, she changed, she's a lot more, I guess I would say sexier, so to speak, in this. But I love the moment where he's kind of like, Amy, you can come back to me, Amy, and then she has a Melina face or Melina cosplay going on, and Charlie doesn't know what he wants to do about that. But as typical movies would go, typical movies, they end up killing Jerry with sunlight because nothing else would really work, so sunlight was basically the best option. most we saw a very happy end. Peter Vincent goes back to host Fright Night, Charlie and Amy end up having a moment, and everything seems to be tender pender. And, more or less, that was Fright Night. The 1985 version, not the 2011 version. If you want to see that, go and check out Andy the Maniacal Cinephile. I will link his channel in the description down below. Also, speaking of Andy the Maniacal Cinephile, which I waited until this moment for, did you know that this is his favorite vampire movie? Kind of cool when you think about it that way. I went into it knowing knowledge of that this was his favorite vampire movie. So, and if Andy does watch this, I hope that you enjoyed what I had to say about it. But that was Fright Night, and all things considered, it's a fairly decent and pretty well done vampire movie that we should see more of nowadays. Fright Night is a different kind of horror movie, one that you don't often see nowadays, but one that's still nice to appreciate even when you do see it, which is pretty cool. You have to stop and consider, at the time when this came out, mostly slasher movies were all the rage, but yet this managed to gain quite the cult following that exists even still today. The acting is spot on, the directing by Tom Holland is magnificent, and I have to say the musical scores are all great too, but mostly and specifically the acting. The special effects and the atmosphere in this just reeks of Halloween, and especially the special effects are the part of moment that do stand out in Fright Night. So if you're gonna watch a brand new movie this Halloween season, why shouldn't it be Fright Night? It's scary, it's terrifying, and it's one hell of a great vampire movie. Yet, unfortunately, I'm sorry to say that it is not my legit favorite vampire movie. That one goes into another one. We'll talk about that when I review it later in October. But coming this Friday is a different review. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm hoping that you'll be there for more of the Lazyween spirit. But to capture off my feelings of Fright Night, it's a great vampire film. Something that hasn't been seen, but something that's kind of feels familiar. It kind of feels like Alfred Hitchcock Rearview Window, but if you put Dracula into it, it kinda had that feeling. Or even the Shia LaBeouf movie Disturbia, if you put a vampire into it instead of a creepy, crazy, possessed serial killer as your neighbor. It kind of feels unique and sincere, and especially for the atmosphere, is very great. It honors and respects all the past horror movies, especially in Peter Vincent's apartment, are a bunch of nods to past vampires, specifically Bela Lugosi, and also a legendary painting of Vincent frickin' Price. Yeah, that's how damn awesome it is. But to be fair, this is still a great movie that honors and respects its fallen vampire brethren that has come before it. And that's why my vinyl pop rating of Fright Night is going to have to be a magic. Because there is a little bit of magic that can be enjoyed whenever that I watch this movie, and I don't know about other people, but that is my feelings and opinion on it. So my rating is a magic. So, ghouls and goblins, thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me for more Lazyween. If you wanted to know what Lazyween video I'm going to be working on, follow me at Twitter with the link in the description down below. Or you can hang out here at the Lazyween HQ and just be surprised every time I make an upload. I still have no idea what I'm going to do for Friday, but I have a feeling that we'll be going back to high school. Just a feeling. But we're gonna have to deal with something way worse than homework. You can take a guess what it is. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me at Twitter with the link in the description down below. And I'm gonna steal the tagline from fellow YouTuber Pushing Up Roses. Sorry to both Roses, aka Sarah. But thank you guys so much for watching. And until next time, guys, stay spooky and happy Lazyween.